I think Phoebe showed up, so we can start the meeting now. Oh, excellent. All right. My name is Curtis Chen, and I would like to welcome you to the Rotary Club of Foster City, known as far away as Tiburon, as the club that does. And I'd like to invite Steve Droz to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Pam Frisella, will come up for the talk.
What is life? It's not that long.
Can't hear you.
What?
Life with Charlie. And I'm sitting next to him. Pray for me. What is life? They say it's from B to D, from birth to death. But what's in between B and D? It's a C. So what is C? C is a choice. Our life is a matter of choices. Live well, make good choices, and it will never go wrong. So let us be grateful to people who make us happy. They are the charming gardeners who make our souls blossom. Marcel Krauss.
I don't know.
Thank you, Pam. Thank you, Pam. I just want to remind everyone, I forgot, please silence your cell phones. I just silenced mine. I left it on. Just a reminder for the Zoomers, please stay on mute and use the chat function at the bottom to give feedback or ask questions to the speaker later. And I'd like to invite visiting Rotarians to introduce themselves, please. We have a visiting Rotarian.
Yes, we do. Okay. And guests.
There's a microphone for you.
Bill McNicholas. Hi, Bill McNicholas. I'm with Rotary Club Tiburon Sunset, and I'm down with the speaker today and my wife, Meryl.
Other visiting Rotarians. Oh, Deborah Wilder, hi.
Hi.
Any Charlie Berninsky, hi. Any guests in the room besides Marilyn? Okay. Oh, Mary Lou has a guest.
I'd like to introduce a man that I've known for a long time, but we frequently don't see, and that would be Charlie Berninsky. And Steve.
All right. All right, moving right along, I'd like to wish a happy birthday to Rich Mozzini, November 2nd. And Elaine Porter, Ann Ritzlett's wife, on November 3rd. No anniversaries to celebrate this week, but we do have some Rotary anniversaries. Marcia Cohen-Lyle on November 1st, 28 years. Congratulations. Rick Wyckoff, November 1st, 38 years. All right. All right, Stephanie, Sunshine Report.
Good afternoon. I got a phone call or an email from Jeff Brown, and he told me about Harry Zabin. And so I picked up the phone, I called Harry, he answered, and I said, Harry, we hear something is wrong. Are you okay? And he said he fell, and he was in the hospital, and he was being released, and his wife on the other end said, tell her you're getting dressed, tell her you're getting dressed. Anyway, he has to go to physical therapy, and he said it'll be probably for a couple of weeks, but don't worry, I'm doing just fine.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Stephanie. Any good news to report? I'm going to send JP around. We have a traveling mic now, so you can use the microphone, and then an optional donation to the club would be nice. Andrea, go ahead.
Thank you, President Curtis. I would like to announce and toot our own horn. Mary Bates, if you will please stand up. Last weekend, Mary and I attended the race for rodeo. And it was a rodeo to end polio. And Mary Bates and I both dressed up, and we ended up winning the contest. We're going to jail. We're going to Alcatraz.
Yeah, we got 3 tickets to Alcatraz.
And then secondly, Kim, I'm wearing red on your behalf for eradicating heart disease.
Thank you, Andrea. Any other good news to report? Deborah Wilder in the back.
So I traveled down the hill from Grass Valley to be with you today. But in reality, I'm here because my father, bless his heart, is turning 90 on Sunday.
Any other good news? No one else. Okay, great. Just a few reminders. Oh, Stan, you have good news?
I'd like to just follow Deborah there. I'd like to make a $90,
Yeah.
yes.
In honor of Deborah Wilder's father, I'd like to make a $90 donation to the Foster City Rotary Foundation. In his name.
Thank you, Stan. Okay, just as a reminder, for the Crown Plaza, they're not instituting minimums for us, so we really need RSVPs. That's how they reduce food waste. They know exactly how much to prepare for us. So Debbie Williams is pleading, please RSVP if you're going to be coming to the meeting, right? Okay, just another few calendar items. We will be dark the day before Thanksgiving. That's November 24th. And then over the holidays, we'll be dark on December 22nd and 29th. All right, Debbie, would you like to come and talk about the holiday party?
Sure, I'd love to. Hang on 1 second.
It's going to be a dinner.
Oh, yeah. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hey, Debbie.
Our holiday party is scheduled for December 12th from 5 to 9. We're going to be having it here at the Crown Plaza. We're going to have prime rib and salmon. And what I'd like to do is have an ugly sweater contest. And the winner will get dinner at Bellini's. So please, more information will come out. I don't have all the information right now, but we're working on it. Please save the date. Love to see all of you here. Bye.
Thank you, Debbie. I think Charlie Bernisky wanted to make an announcement. Did Lenny ever show up? Oh, you can't tell us right now. Right.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, Charlie. Hi, Charlie.
Hello, Charles.
This morning I was looking at the news and they were interviewing people from food banks. I am standing. You know, there's only one person in this room that's more dangerous behind the microphone than me, John Grant. So I was saying, I was looking at the news this morning and they were interviewing people from food banks. And they were saying that this year they're expecting just an enormously increase in demand, even from last year. So I went online and I was gonna start making donations, and I came up with this little idea that maybe we could raise a little bit more money and have a little bit of fun. And so I'm here to propose a 1-week program. It's called Spend Charlie's Money. So for everybody who makes a donation either to Second Harvest or to Samaritan House between now and next week's meeting, I will match 25% of that up to $1,000 per organization. So we could raise as much as $10,000, 5 for each, with 25% of that money being mine. So please be generous. It's going to be a rough year. So thank you, Curtis, for the time.
All right, for spearheading that. All right, Jeff Brown video. You want to intro that, or is it pretty self-explanatory, right, Jeff?
No, I want to introduce.
You want to introduce? Come on up. All right, JB.
Now, this is a really short video, and Curtis likes to, I like to have artists, Curtis likes information, so last week you had important information. If you ever stuck in a bull ring with a bull, you know how to get out of it. Well, this one's a little also informative. Many of you have seen how a wine glass, you can make a nice noise. But, did you know you can do the same thing with a beer mug? So maybe Thanksgiving, take a look at this and see if you can try it yourself.
For the applause, that looks like a thumbs up. Yeah. As I mentioned last week, Jeff sends me at least 100 videos every week. And we whittle it down to like 50 by the weekend, and then 10 by Tuesday, and I just got to choose one. So thanks, Jeff, for all the work on that. And keep sending Jeff the videos if you see one. That kind of sets me up for just a recap. I had set up these small group meetings. As everybody knows, I'm trying to meet with everybody in the club just to get their feedback on what's working and get new ideas for club projects. And I was meeting Steve Rose on Friday at BJ's, 4 o'clock. And so I did, I said, well, why don't we get a few more people? And I sent out a club runner email. Anybody just show up? Jamie Cabernet said, hey, I can make this one. So I said, okay, it's gonna be 3, 4 people. 10 people showed up. So, and it was, I got the feedback and criticisms and got a lot of fellowship. So I think I'm just gonna decide to do this every once in a while. Just have I'm gonna call it a flash happy hour. So if you see an email at 10 a.m., I may just be there. We'll do copies also. So anyway, whoever was there, thank you for coming, and we'll try that again. It's good feedback. All right, Jamie, would you like to come give us a little recap on this weekend?
So this past weekend, as Andrea alluded to, there was this great function in San Francisco put on by the district, which was the Race to End Polio. And this was much like Mary's event last year. This was a scavenger hunt out along Fisherman's Wharf in the local area there. So Curtis, Mark, myself, and Patricia were a team. And we, by the way, answered all of the riddles, if that's what they're called, challenges. Did you, Mary? Correctly, yes. Without cheating.
She did the selfies, the 20 selfies.
So anyway, it was a great event. I tried to reach out to Danielle and ask how much money was raised, but she didn't get back to me. I'm sure she's a little more important than I am. So I will say that they had many people were dressed up, and there were some good ones. And although Andrea and Mary, I thought were fisher women, they were actually rubber duckies. I didn't get the rubber ducky thing, but they won anyway. So what do I know? But I will tell you this: if they have this thing next year, this challenge, all the little clues they had to go figure out all these challenges were so well thought out. I thought it was really, really cool. If they do this again next year, I suggest everyone participate because it's a lot of fun. And Mark and Curtis and I may or may not have been drinking the whole day.
Hi there, piggyback on what Jamie was saying. It was a great day, great fun. And one thing I'd like to bring up, Mike isn't here today, Mike Hoffman, I don't see him. But anyway, I'm a member of the Polio Society, and it's so great to raise money for that great work that we've been doing all these years. So I just want to say, you can be in the Polio Society automatically. I think it starts with $100 a year, and they take it automatically out of your checking account, and it's painless, it's easy, and it's good work. And then to add to that, I wish Mike was here because I'm gonna have to hang on to this. I have a check for the Rotary Foundation. This is aside from normal giving for $25. And the $25 is because at the end of the whole event, I went with the fellows who were nice enough to have me, Mark, Curtis, Jamie. We had a libation at the Buena Vista. And so I wanted to at least pay the tip. And Mark, no way, he posted, he says, give the tip money to Rotary Foundation, to the Polio Plus. So anyway, I'll give this to Mike when I see him. That's all.
By the way, the libations may or may not have been lighted or unleaded. We don't know. Okay, we have a vocational talk today by our esteemed past president, Bob Kaplan.
I don't think I've done this in about 10 years, so I don't take that personally. I've had some lucky breaks in my life. Many of them I didn't understand or realize until years later. I lived my entire life, except for college, in San Mateo County. Great place to live. I went to 3 San Mateo schools: Meadow Heights, Abbott, and Hillsdale. All 3. My first big break was being accepted at UC Santa Barbara, even though my grades were not that good. And it was quite a shock to me at UC Santa Barbara because I hadn't associated with the top students until I got there. To the consternation of my father, I chose to major in history. He must have asked me 100 times, what are you going to do with a history major? And to this day, most of the reading I do is in history. And I'm convinced that a liberal arts education opens many, many doors. And I'm a big fan of that. During my time at UC Santa Barbara, I got another break, which was a summer job working as a grunt kitchen helper in the Marine Cooks and Stewards Union on ships going to Asia, Hawaii, and Mexico. One of the ships I worked on was the President Wilson, and you may not know, but Alvin Joe came to America on the same ship. We got to go to, as I said, Asia, Hawaii, and Mexico. One of the things that happened was I fell in love with Japan, going there for just a short time, and that left me with a lifetime love of things Japanese. After graduating from UC Santa Barbara with a history major, I found myself unemployable.
but my father was not right. So I went back to school and I got an MBA at Sacramento State, and for a few years I worked in banking, which was not the best years of my career. But another lucky break came when I signed up for an H&R Block course. I found out I liked working with taxes, and I gained experience working for H&R in a few CPA firms in San Francisco. I decided to study for the CPA exam primarily because I didn't want to just work 3 months a year. And I enrolled at Golden Gate University in the tax program. And I feel very fortunate to pass the CPA exam, which was brutal with a large background. To this day, I feel grateful to have found a profession that has meant so much in my life. After working for a few local firms, I started my own firm about 3 blocks in here in 1991. I had a practice in Foster City and San Mateo ever since, and that was a very good break. Currently, I'm in the process of transferring my practice to my partner, Janelle Wong. Because I wanted to give back to the profession that I love, I got involved with the associations for CPAs. For the last 20 years or so, I've been active with Cal CPA and the American Institute of CPAs. This involvement has given back to me many times over. It's opened doors to becoming a guest on KQED's forum, meeting with congressional staff, many trips to Washington, D.C., and piggyback trips to Europe. Those fun. Probably the most important break, however, was being set up with my wife, Laura, in 2001. Last month, we celebrated 20 years since our meeting. She keeps me grounded and is definitely the love of my life. My other claim to fame is my wonderful family, 4 daughters, 2 sons, 2 son-in-laws, soon to be 3, and 2 grandsons. Finally, joining Rotary was a great break. I remember when Mike Davidson talked me out of joining the Lions Club and brought me to my first meeting here. I made many friends and business associates here and was honored to be your president in 2014 and 15. Thanks.
I think there's a question for you, Bob.
Hey, Bob, you didn't mention anything about your comedic career.
No one wants to hear about it.
That's pretty much the way it was.
No one mentions anything about comedic career. Good, more questions for Bob.
Hey, Bob, you forgot to mention that he is actually on the finance committee for our district. So he kept track of money and knows a lot about our district as in Rotary. So thank you, Bob, for sharing.
Thanks, Bob. I didn't know a little bit more about you. I didn't know you were a history major. All right, so last week we had a little interlude of, I just asked people to give restaurant reviews on places they've gone that they liked. And I think we're oversubscribed. So does anybody have any other restaurant? We have a few minutes. Jamie, on up or get the mic.
If I have to come up, I don't want to.
I think Linda wanted to mention something.
I did?
Yeah.
No, you did.
This weekend, my wife and I went to a restaurant on California Street in Palo Alto called Teru, and it was delicious. And you should go.
What type of food?
Italian.
Anyone else want to share recommendations? John Grant? Over here. You may not get it back.
Unaccustomed as I am. Linda tells me I need to give a review of this great little restaurant, little cafe in the Metro Center. And I have no idea what the name of it is. Cafe Savini. Hey, Savini. It's very nice. They're really nice couple. Prices are pretty good. And they serve mostly paninis at Savini.
Great. I think Steve Okamoto had a hand up.
Thank you, Curtis. My son is a millennial, along with his fiance, and they use Yelp a lot to find restaurants. So they were looking for a Japanese restaurant that had at least 4.5, 5 stars. Well, they found one, So they went out, had a fabulous dinner, told us about it, so we accompanied them the next week. And that was in May of this past year. And I can't tell you how many times Diane and I and other friends who have joined us have been there. It's almost ridiculous. But believe it or not, this is a Japanese restaurant in the town of Brisbane. I mean, they found it on Yelp. It's called Ichika, Ichika, Ichika. And I guarantee you that if you ever go there, you will feel the same way that we did when we first met. This was a fabulous restaurant, super service, ingenious way of presentation of Japanese food, and obviously very good. So please enjoy.
All right, thank you, Steve. We got Cam, Priscilla, and then Patricia.
Okay, he gets the speaker's gift for that. The best restaurant I've been to in a very, very long time is called Lola's. Unfortunately, it's in Grass Valley. It's in Nevada City. It's in a newly renovated hotel. If you're ever in Nevada City on the way up to Tahoe, they've just redone this entire national hotel in Nevada City. And Lola's is the restaurant, and it's got the best food I've had in a long, long time. Thank you.
Great. Patricia, Claire, Maxwell, from front. And then we'll go to Rich.
So I go out to eat a lot. That's just the way it is. And so there's a French place down in Menlo Park I really have to mention. It's called Bistro Vida. It is the most excellent food, very close to being very French. And not only that, they have, for those who like beer, they now have a beer garden. I've never tasted the beer there, but the food is beyond excellent. So if you're ever in Menlo Park, do try it out. Here in San Mateo, there is a fabulous, I like it anyway, and I'm not an aficionado, dim sum place, because we lost the one here in Foster City. And now go to Pallet up at Hillsdale Mall, which is beyond expected, and the service there is fantastic, and the choices, there are so many. I haven't been able to try them all yet, but it's worth going to. Very social, and they're wonderfully welcoming. Thank you.
Great. All right, Rich. Rich, and then Rick will wind it up.
Yes, my daughter last night took me out to the restaurant for my birthday. Many of you have been there. I've been there a few times. The iron cake is outstanding. I had flambe, spinach salad, steak on flambe, right on there. It's just an upscale place, but it's an old-fashioned. The waiters have the tuxedos on and the whole 9 yards. It's just an old-fashioned way.
Hello. That was going to be mine as well. And for how many of you have been to the Bella Vista, which has since closed? Those folks and that menu are now at the Iron Gate. It's fantastic. Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that they used to be partners. Excellent. Okay, but I join in that recommendation.
All right, over to Rick. Did Patricia have the last one? So Rick, then Patricia, we got to move on.
I had a really great Swiss bacon chicken sandwich at Carl's Jr.
Patricia Nutting. When was that? Yeah.
I just want to add to what Linda and John Grant said about Cafe Savini. It is the greatest kept secret. And now that I go there, the other day after an appointment, I stopped by for one of their great lattes. And on the menu for the special, they had leg of lamb, potatoes, and roasted vegetables that I bought for my dinner. I had 2 dinners out of it. Their moussaka is out of sight, lasagna, and then they have another Majora. No, but what I do is, because I don't even go out anymore, Pam, I get it during the day, take it home, and I Eat in the microwave at my dinner. Yeah, it's strictly breakfast and lunch. They close at 2. It is fantastic.
All right, thank you everyone for sharing, and we're going to take a few minutes for fellowship while we sit up with the speaker. So we'll be back in about 5 or 10 minutes. Yeah. Well, we have our moderators. You don't have to turn it through. I tried, but I saw the back I'm here now. I like it.
Yeah, that was for
Counting on you to vote. Are you ready to reconvene here? All right, we're getting ready for a speaker here. Zoom people are ready. All right, I'd like to invite Stan Hahn to introduce our speaker. Thank you.
I would love to. So, our speaker today is an Emmy Award-winning anchor, reporter, producer, and entrepreneur with 17 years of on-camera experience on national television and online. She broke ground as the first female sports anchor in the Bay Area. Through dedicated hard work and giving back to the communities in which she had reported, she was also awarded the Governor's Medallion for Extraordinary Service to the broadcast industry. Her career has given her journalistic breadth, ranging from local news to technology, to meteorology, sports, and business, with a particular focus on tech. She is the founder of the not-for-profit, quote, "The Way to My Heart," close quote. Its mission is to educate, engage, and empower patients to take responsibility for their health care so they live a better quality of life. Its purpose is to reduce 1.5 million heart attacks and strokes each year, 200,000 amputations annually, and deadly comorbidity complications due to viruses. She is here this afternoon to speak to these issues. Today's topic is saving life and limb. Please give a heartfelt Foster City Rotary welcome to Kim McNicholas.
I almost needed my own medical service here. Hi, everyone. How many of you, I might start off with a little disclaimer. I'm not here to give medical advice. I don't have that experience or credential behind me. But I want to ask you and open up with a question. How many of you have ever known someone or you yourself has ever experienced a heart attack? Do you know someone or have ever had one yourself? Everyone pretty much knows someone who's had a heart attack at some point in their lives, right? Now, of those of you who raised your hands, which I think was every one of you, how many of you know that that person, whether it was you or someone else, actually experienced obvious signs and symptoms prior to this heart attack, that they knew or you knew it was coming? One. 50% of heart attack sufferers experience no obvious signs or symptoms. And yet our physicians and our entire healthcare system don't do more to assess risk and help prevent this from happening. They still use antiquated markers to assess someone's risk, such as the basic lipid panel. You can forward the slide. and one more. They use the basic lipid panel. Everyone here has had a basic lipid panel done. They measure your LDLs, the so-called good cholesterol, and they measure your LDLs, the so-called bad cholesterol, right? But did you know that more than 40% of heart attack sufferers actually have normal cholesterol in a basic lipid panel? And it's likely that your primary care physician says, oh, you're fine. Your basic lipid panel is normal. You have normal cholesterol. Don't worry about any risk of heart attack or stroke. But what's true is that it's in an advanced lipid panel. You can fast forward the slide. An advanced lipid panel that you actually know whether you are at risk of a heart attack or stroke. Why? Because it measures the quality of your so-called bad cholesterol versus just the quantity. The basic lipid panel measures the total bad cholesterol. The advanced lipid panel measures the quality. How many of the large LDL, the big fluffy LDL particles are so-called bad cholesterol? Those are actually good. The large fluffy LDL particles are good. It's great if you have a lot of those. The ones that you want to worry about are the small, dense LDL particles, the ones that are most likely that when they become oxidized by those big bad trans fats, we all have heard of those, and those free radicals, that they have the ability to infiltrate your vessel walls, which have been damaged. And how many of you, just to go back, how many of you understand how plaque builds up in your body? So what ends up happening, did you know that it actually stems from artery damage, right? But what damages your artery? There are a lot of different factors that damage your vessel walls, that trigger the inflammatory response of your body, and the fats and the cholesterol are called in to bandage those damaged areas. And that's when those little tiny, small, dense LDL particles can actually infiltrate the vessel wall and push that wall out and restrict your blood flow, whether it's in your legs, whether it's in your heart, whether it's in your neck. I've even seen it in the arms as well. And that's really what ends up, it could be done, damage could be done by environmental factors. Smoking, of course, is a culprit. Anything you breathe in, any chemicals, because I don't know if you know how it works, but when you breathe in, the oxygen goes into your lungs and the heart is pumping the depleted blood into the oxygen depleted blood into your lungs, only to pull that oxygen into the blood, comes back into the heart, and then it circulates out throughout your whole body. So imagine whatever you're breathing in is actually going right into your bloodstream. Chemicals, you're gonna watch now what you breathe in, right? That, whatever you're breathing in can actually, that's how it irritates the vessel walls. Also, an even bigger factor is diabetes, sugar molecules. Did you know that more than 50% of people in the United States are either pre-diabetic or diabetic? I don't know how many, you don't have to raise your hands, but I don't know how many of you have ever been told by your doctor that you're possibly pre-diabetic, but oh, don't worry about it, you're not diabetic, just keep an eye on it, no problem. But the truth is that as we age, our bodies become more sensitive to even the slight raise of your sugar. Those sugar molecules are like nails inside your vessels, and they scratch your vessel wall, and what happens? It triggers the inflammatory response of those fats and cholesterol to go and band-aid, the sirens go off in your body, to band-aid those vessel walls. The fact is that everyone has this plaque buildup in their body. Doesn't affect everyone ultimately in the same way. It's just a matter of how much plaque you have in your vessels and where this plaque is building up. But everyone pretty much has it. And if that's the case, then why don't physicians do more to assess the plaque buildup in our bodies when it's so life and limb threatening? Well, it's expensive, right? It's expensive. But what if I told you I have the most cost-effective, maybe costless way of detecting whether you are at risk of a heart attack, stroke, and even amputation. 3 in 5 heart attack sufferers have plaque buildup in their leg arteries. It's called peripheral artery disease. 1 in 20 people over the age of 50 have it. 1 in 5 over the age of 60 has it. And it's more likely than not that your physician has brushed off your symptoms of leg pain, leg cramps, numbness, and tingling in your legs as old age. Oh, you were an athlete when you were younger, it's just catching up to you. Neuropathy, diabetic neuropathy, you might have heard that. Sciatica, oh, it's just your spine, you have back problems. It could be your arteries in your legs, and it could be your #1 indicator whether you are at risk of a heart attack, stroke, and amputation. Peripheral artery disease is a restricting of blood flow in your legs, and it could ultimately affect your feet. Your toes could even start going numb, right? Now, you can advance the slide. So it's worth actually getting tested. Everyone stick out your legs. Take your 2 fingers, touch behind your knee. You don't have to go all the way down to your foot, but if you can touch your foot, your ankle. That's all a doctor needs to do in order to detect whether you are at risk of heart attack, stroke, or amputation. If you have peripheral artery disease, that's all they need to do. They need to feel your leg and your foot pulses. And 3 in 5 people who suffer a heart attack have dim pulses, and some don't even have any at some point, depending on their advanced stage. That's all they need to do in order to determine that. So it's amazing that they don't do that. Now, you might wonder, how in the heck does she know all this information? She's just a sports anchor and a tech journalist. I know what's going through your mind. Oh, wait a minute, no, I'm a doctor, or I have a nurse in my family, or I've been to the doctor. How in the heck does she know, and why does she care about all this? Well, I was running Sir Richard Branson. Everyone knows Sir Richard Branson. I was asked to run his global startup competition. And he said to me, you know what, don't let what you don't know and have never done before get in the way of doing something great and having an impact. And sometimes what you don't know could be your greatest asset to create disruption in any industry. And we know that's true because he lives that every single day. So I ran his startup competition for about 3 years. And during that time, I saw more than 5,000 startups. And most of them were literally in healthcare innovation. And it was at that time that I decided I wanted to launch a radio show. And it was called Kim McNicholas on Innovation, really creative. But it was a big focus on healthcare innovation. And I interviewed a couple of doctors who told me that there's a company that has the biggest breakthrough in cardiovascular medicine. And it's going to save life and limb. And you need to interview the CEO. Turns out I knew the CEO. And I ended up interviewing him. And I said, oh my gosh, you are just at the forefront of this whole journey to bring this technology to healthcare. And I asked if I could be the first journalist to capture an entire FDA study on camera from start to finish, and then from there, follow their global commercialization and see how life and limb are saved around the world. And I set out on this journey because they said yes, and I learned so much. You can advance the slide. Oh, keep advancing. There we go. I spent 5 years traveling the world, 5 full years. It flew. 5 years traveling the world and visiting, I mean, so many facilities. You can fast forward one slide. I went to 30 states, 10 countries. I watched hundreds of physicians and thousands of hours of procedures around the world, 10 countries, 30 states, watching doctors unblock arteries in the legs and in the heart. And you know what I learned? The number one thing I learned, and the only consistency in treating blocked arteries anywhere in your body, is the inconsistency. Right? Fast forward. Different doctors, different tools. Whoops. Whoops. Keep going back. Keep going back. Somehow it fast forwarded it. Well, now you're going to see what's coming. I just ruined the surprise. Go back. Somehow it jumped all the way to the end. Yes, we'll talk about patience too. You get to see all the lives that I've saved along the way. Keep going back. Keep going, keep going. I know, so many slides, so many slides. Keep going, keep going.
22.
Keep going. I know, I'm over prepared. Keep going. Keep going. Back. There we go. Oh, there you go. Perfect. What I learned, I'm not going to read through all of this, but basically every doctor has different tools, different techniques, different philosophies. You know, it just blew my mind how you could be in one facility and literally one doctor on your right saving a life and limb, and the person on your left is literally killing people. And that's no joke. I've watched it. They use the same tools, the same techniques, but this doctor fails and this doctor succeeds. It's absolutely, it would blow your mind what I have experienced over time. And it's taught me that when choosing a doctor, it's really important to consider more than just credentials. You can go to the next page. Credentials mean absolutely nothing. The title of doctor means absolutely nothing more than that. Specialist, vascular specialist, cardiologist, it means nothing more than that title. What truly matters is their proven skill set. Are they on the cutting edge? Are they still using that same tool, that same technique that worked for them 40 years ago when they graduated from Harvard and are now the department head of another major university or another major hospital? Are they still using that same technique? They just might be once they get that tenure and they're in the hospital for many, many years. You want something new, you want something next, you want something minimally invasive, and that's what I learned along my journey. The criteria for choosing the right doctor. Now, you might wonder, well, what did you do with all this information? Wow, oh my gosh, where can I read about it? Well, it became very personal for me once I got to a certain point in my journey. My dad ended up coming down with some symptoms of indigestion. Little bromoceptor, you just kind of burp. Oh, it's just a little Prilosec, possibly. We went to the urgent care, and they said, oh yeah, it's just an indigestion. Here's some Prilosec, go home. And I said, no, doctor, no. He has a heart disease in his family. You know, he's about that age. I think that this chest pain is more than just indigestion. I want an ECG. She said, no, because I don't have a diagnosis for that. I said, what do you mean you don't have a diagnosis for that? Well, I believe it's indigestion. I said, well, I don't. And if we have to pay cash, we want an ECG right now. Lo and behold, he had an abnormality. Fast forward, he ended up getting a nuclear stress test, which is one of the best ways to determine, you know, if there is a problem. And if he had a blockage in his circumflex artery, one of his arteries in his heart, 95% blockage, on the verge of a heart attack. And yet this doctor, this primary care doctor, your gatekeeper, was going to let my dad die because of a CPT code or a diagnosis code, right, that she couldn't input because she believed it was indigestion. Now, fast forward into his experience. You can go to the next slide. And the next one. He went to the doctor. I was out of town. And he went to the cardiologist. And the cardiologist says, hey, guess what? We have an opening tomorrow. We can get him on the table for an angiogram. How many of you are familiar with an angiogram? Where you go under the fluoroscopy, the x-ray, they pump contrast fluid in you. And then if there's something there that they can treat while they pump this contrast fluid through your arteries under x-ray, they'll go ahead and use some balloons, angioplasty, what do you need? A roto-rooter, do a little roto-rooting in there, and maybe a stent, right? I said, you're not throwing on, Dad, you call and cancel that. You get me on the phone with the cardiologist now. They're not throwing you on the table blindly with an interventional cardiologist that you don't even know. Not happening on my watch. I get a call from the cardiologist. Oh, Kim, you know, it's easy. It happens all the time. It's just standard practice. And I said, not for my dad. No, I want a CT scan. Oh, Kim, that's not really going to show the images, and we're just going to have to do an angiogram anyway. No, I want a 256 splice CT scan of my dad before you throw him on the table so we can have a productive and satisfying conversation about a plan A, B, and C. Oh, yeah, we just got one of those at the Marine General 6 months ago. Yeah, that 3D modeling of the heart, that's a really good idea. Doc, you know what to tell the insurance company to get them to cover that, right? Yeah. Okay, well, I'll let you make that phone call. He did. And we were able to have, it was cool, right? You can actually, I think I have it, advance to the next slide. 3D modeling of the heart. Look at that. How cool is that? You can see where the arrow is. That's calcium. That's calcium in the artery. Look at that big boulder in there. That's his artery. I mean, talk about what you can have a productive discussion with your doctor knowing this information. Okay, doc, now what tools are you going to use? What would you do in this situation and seeing this, if in fact this is what you were going to see? Oh, well, we'll probably use some balloons and some stents. And I said, well, are you going to use any plaque removal devices? Roto-rooting? Do you want the real term for that? It's called atherectomy. Atherectomy is the actual removal of plaque. If you use roto-rooting, that's actually a specific device, rotoblader. But there are many devices that can be used, such as the diamond back, which is another orbital device, which was ultimately used in my dad. And I said to the doc, so, you know, what tools, what techniques, and what stents are you going to use? Are you going to use some stents from China? Oh, no, we have good ones. We have this and that. And I said, I want the gold standard for my dad. Oh, we normally don't take requests. Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Yes, you do. I want Boston Scientific. I want this stent, and I want it. It's the gold standard. And plus, if you put a Medtronic in his body, I think he'll die on the table because he doesn't like that company. So, you know, that little business experience there, you know, that can affect a person. That's why you get to know the person, right? So ultimately, all of this information, I was able to save his life. A year later, they told me that he, you know, they weren't going to put him back, you know, on the table again and this and that. He had another 95% blockage in his right coronary, and his widowmaker, his LAD, had an 80% long blockage in there, narrowing. And so once again, we went through the process. We shopped around to about 4 or 5 different doctors, and ultimately we found one that does what's considered, and you need to remember this. If you have any interventional procedure done, you walk out the door if they don't use image-guided therapy. It's intravascular ultrasound. It's a little camera that goes in and it helps the doctor determine the size and the placement of those balloons and stents. And then, get this, they can check their work afterwards to make sure that they didn't cause any problems, which they can't tell just with regular contrasts. So remember that. But needless to say, you know, it was this experience of high-touch advocacy for my dad that I thought, oh my God, I need to scale this. I need to offer this to everyone. And that's when I got the idea to formalize what I do with the way to my heart, high-touch advocacy. We prepare patients for their appointments. We help provide the critical questions to ask their doctors. We support them. We show up virtually to every one of their appointments, and we help facilitate a productive and satisfying conversation. And it's a really high-level conversation that I can have with each of these doctors on a level that they've never experienced before, where I can get the right information on exactly what these doctors are going to do during the procedures to hold them accountable. And it's been pretty incredible. You can fast forward a couple of slides to the one with the Emmy. Go one more. There we go. Of course, you got to see that. I don't look at all like that anymore. It's not even me. But so far with the weight of my heart, we also follow up with patients afterwards, providing compliance support with diet, exercise, and psychological support, anxiety, depression, all of the above. And we help patients find a second opinion, most importantly. We have saved more than 500 patients told by their doctor that amputation was the only option. In 700 days, we've saved more than 500 of those patients from amputation around the world. All mostly from university hospitals. These patients were told by their doctors amputation was the only option. I've even saved patients beyond this who were told that they needed a quadruple bypass. And all they actually ultimately needed to save their life was a pinhole. Little prick in the arm called radial approach, sending wires and balloons up into the body. And we've saved them from a major event. So the next time you trust your doctor because you like them or they have the title of doctor, think twice and call me. Call our Lifesaver hotline. I even help people across the board with all kinds of different problems. All of our patients have multiple comorbidities. I helped someone who had an abscess in a place that we'd likely not discuss, but my conversation with the doctor was very enlightening, and I was able to save his life as well for a very different problem, just by asking the right questions, which transcend across all different medical problems. And so it's pretty impactful. We have all kinds of lives that we've saved. I have stories here. If you want to fast forward one, let's see if we have, there she is, 93 years old. We just saved her life. We had a meeting yesterday with the FDA. This was the most incredible story. A 93-year-old woman, Spitfire, living life on her own, no problems. She started getting pain in her feet. And then the doctor brushed her off, said, "You're just old, Go home. If your feet hurt, sit. Worst thing you can do, your feet hurt, sit." She then develops an ulcer on her toe that won't heal. Went to the podiatrist. The podiatrist said, "Actually, I think you might have a circulation problem. Go to a vascular surgeon." The vascular surgeon said, "Oh yeah, okay, we're going to go in with some wires and balloons, and we're going to fix the problem." Well, a lot of these doctors will not tell you their limitations. They only treated a blockage above her knee, in her thigh, and behind her knee. Didn't bother, and if you look at her case notes from the doctor, it clearly states that the biggest problem is the fact that she has no flow into her foot. And they never touched it. No wonder there's a problem. Oh no, the next step is a transmetatarsal amputation of a 93-year-old. That means every one of her toes is removed all the way to the pad of her foot at 93 years old for one toe ulcer. You can play that. See if you can play the video and go through. There's no sound or anything, so I can talk over it. There you go. And you'll see this, for this toe ulcer, they want to do this. I was able to get her son to drive her 2.5 hours to another doctor, and he went into her foot with a wire and balloon. She was told, "Oh, her vessels are too small to treat." No, this doctor went in with a wire and balloon, and he opened up her arteries. And 4 weeks later, look at her foot all the way on the right. Amazing. 4 weeks, 5 days later, it was no problem. And she's back to cooking her chicken and waffles with her daughter, in the kitchen, doing everything on her own. Is that amazing? And they were going to write off this 93-year-old. And you know what? There are actual government committees right now that want to stop all treatment for older people like this. They don't want this to be allowed. But you know what, in Italy, I saw a 104-year-old have her arteries unblocked using these minimally invasive methods. They would rather cut off a 93-year-old woman's foot
and confine her to a wheelchair and sentence her to a poor quality of life and miserable death in probably a matter of 6 months following this procedure. Instead, she's living and she's thriving. So yes, we have more than 10,000 patients around the world, every country represented. And this is what we do every single day is we save life and limb. Thank you. Oh, do you have questions? Questions? Yes.
So are there now twofold? Are there doctors that you see the name and go, oh, they're fine?
Yes.
And are there doctors that see your name and go, oh, God?
Oh, yes. There are 2 doctors now in Houston that I'm on their blacklist. Oh. So she wanted to know, are there doctors that I know are on my good list? And are there doctors that go, oh, shit, it's Kim? And yes, there are. And I know 2 from over the weekend in Houston that literally put off an amputation for a day because I came to call and asking questions, too many high-level questions. Turns out this doctor, oh no, this is great, I have to tell you. So these 2 brothers, chief of vascular surgery. The other one is also a vascular surgeon, but he's head of the peer review board. So anything they do wrong gets swept underneath the table. And in fact, in this case, it did. The first doctor ended up causing a dissection in this woman's vessel. He ice cream scooped the vessel, carving out a piece of the vessel, and that thick piece of vessel is now blocking all flow to the foot. The foot was started with a little ulcer, and within a week, her whole foot's black. So obviously he did something wrong. Now she has to have a below the knee amputation because of it. But the doctor would not, until I came a call and asking questions, suddenly they will not release her records. This happens every single day. You have to be careful, and there's only so much you can do to trust your doctor. But honestly, there are a lot of really good doctors, and I think that everyone really does mean well. They all have the best intentions. They really, really do. But some don't know what they don't know, and they don't want to know what they don't know. They don't want to be disruptive, which is really key. So you have to ask the questions. You have to know what questions that will get to the proven skill set. And before any procedure, I'm talking any procedure, you need to get a second, I don't know, we did 7 opinions for my dad before his procedure. And you can call us, and especially when it comes to the heart and the legs, I can get you, our amputation prevention panel has almost 24 of the top doctors around the world that perform these procedures, and I can get you an instant second opinion for free.
How do people reach out to you?
We have the Lifesaver hotline. And I'll have cards up here. You can grab one of these cards. If anyone has, we have, people that can plant them in different places that are really important where a lot of patients that could be impacted, but it's all free. University hospitals charge upwards of $750 to $1,000 for their biased second opinion. We can get you 24 opinions for free pretty much overnight from the top vascular specialists.
2 questions. 1, are you adoptable?
I'll ask them.
My mom says to me all the day, you help 10,000 patients around the world. When are you going to help me? But my poor dad.
My dad is okay.
Oh yeah, no, he'll give me up in a second. Then I won't tell him what to eat and what not to eat.
So you said it's all free. How do you survive?
Donations.
You can't go back to mom and dad.
Well, they're helping me right now a lot because I gave up, a really nice paying career to do this, and I didn't realize how hard it was. And as Mary Bates will tell you, and I think all of you know, that it's really hard to run a nonprofit, but there are larger nonprofits that have even tried to put me out of business that have in the course of I've offered to work with them, but they want to do everything themselves and own it, but not one person in any medical condition is doing the work that we are doing and creating the change that we are and saving as many lives as we are on a daily basis. 500 in 700 days is a lot of limbs to be saved, and especially when a lot of these patients are with big name doctors, big name facilities, and we were able to get them out of there and going and getting a second opinion. But yes, we take donations. I need to learn more how to more effectively apply for grants. I'm not very good at that. I'm starting to. I just applied for $150,000 in grants. We launched a rehab program for patients, which I'm really excited about. It's the only text-based walking program. Walking is the best medicine. If you do end up, and this is one of the reasons why a lot of doctors don't diagnose it, Kaiser especially will turn their cheek. Not kidding, we can have that discussion. I have one patient, which I'm waiting to hear Kaiser actually, yeah, there they are. I'm seeing how if he saved her life. Praying on this one. This has been a long, hard thing. Kaiser is really, it's killed a few of our patients because they don't, and I'm not kidding. I hope there's someone from Kaiser. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But we're fighting them. This patient was told she was left, she had cancer, she's a cancer survivor. They marked her palliative. They gave her a vascular surgeon who literally was right out of fellowship. And she wanted to do the most palliative, most traumatic procedure, which was called an axillobifemoral bypass, which is a tube that goes from here, protrudes from your chest. And most people die within a year of having this because it reroutes blood flow, right? You save the legs, but all the rest of your organs aren't going to get flow. So we had to send her outside of Kaiser to another doctor that is literally right now doing what Kaiser said was not possible. And he's saving, I'm going to read that. Exactly what he did. Saved her life right now, which is pretty incredible. So these are the stories. My poor parents have to hear it every day, but this is what we do. But yes, we need donations. I need help on how to get them from these companies. Any support, any advice would be fantastic. I know Mary's offered and Andrew's offered, so thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you for coming, Bill and Marilyn. You must be very proud parents. It must be really gratifying to have those happy stories. I'd like to thank you for coming to speak with our club. And to commemorate that, we have a picture of one of our projects here. It's the Yurok Playground Project. We take playgrounds that are going to be thrown out from around the area, and in partnership with a high school interact club, we take them out, we repaint them, refurbish them, and reinstall them up in the Yurok Indian Nation in Klamath, California, near the Oregon border. So thank you again for coming. You're doing great work. By the way, I invite you to apply to our grant. Oh, and nice. It's not going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars. We can do our part. Just see Deborah Wilder back there to get an application.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for
Yeah.
Please.
This is
Thank you.
Thank you.
all right. Just a great thanks to the speaker committee, Stan Pond, Gary Epstein, and Mark Watson for bringing these delightful speakers to our club meetings. They really make a difference.
Until next week. What's next week?
Yeah, next week's the club assembly, so we'll have our own speakers. I'd like to thank Jim Hardy for being the greeter, Steve Droz for the pledge, Pam Frisella for the thought for the day, and Allison Proctor, who's on Zoom taking minutes today. So until next week is the club assembly. We'll see you then, right here. We're adjourned.
Okay, well, it won't quit. Not done. Yeah.